Welcome everybody. I'm Bigge Lidgren. If you haven't met me before, most people call me Bigge. I'm the CEO of Cleantech Invest. Let me first say it's great to see you here. My team can vouch for the fact that I use the term shareholder value a lot. So it's really good to see some shareholders and actually get to talk to you in person. This is our share development. Since you are shareholders, I figured we'd at least put this up. I will not comment on the share price. I have not done that so far, and I will not start now. But I will say that, and it might be worth thinking about when you see this graph, is that a large part of this, and I would say the largest part of this journey, is actually ahead of us. We are building some global success stories here. And although they have performed well the last year, these companies, really the biggest part of this growth, I think, is ahead of us. Major events over the year. I have slides that go through the three last points a little bit better, but I'll mention a bit about the first point here. We brought in, and I said this at the last annual general meeting, some of you might have been here then, that we will try to get better footholds on some international markets of importance for our portfolio. And we actually mentioned China, US, and Sweden. And we brought in some strategic new owners from exactly those countries in a small share emission. Some of these have already invested directly into our portfolio firms now, so they have actually been very valuable to us already. This tells the portfolio growth better, actually grew by more than 200%. And this is, of course, one of the reasons that our share value has gone up. We have not counted the new firms, actually, in that growth number. It would have been even more, but this is only looking at the companies we had also last year, and then how they performed revenue-wise over this year. This is the company that I made today's t-shirt from. I thought what better way to dress up for an annual general meeting than this firm. Nocart, if you don't know the company, they do power management units. And it's basically, you could say, the heart and brain of a renewable energy system, so that you can plug in different renewable energy options. You typically have solar as well as a solar panel. But it could be some waste stream that you want to utilize, sawdust, for example, to burn and make electricity out of. They then make sure that all these energy sources talk to each other and turns it into grid quality energy. The company has grown very well. It's actually 4 times revenue, and they managed to tenfold the profit during the same time. So they are actually now turning a decent profit already in 2015. Swap.com, you may have heard. It's kind of a high-profile case, mainly because of their growth, I would say. I think at last annual meeting we said they had 1 football field large fulfillment center. Well, they now have 2, almost 3 football fields large fulfillment center outside of Chicago in the US, where people can send in second-hand items, so used items. They started with kids, now they have a women's line as well. People send in their items, Swap sorts them, categorize them, take pictures, and upload them on swap.com. And customers that send in get 75% when it's sold, and Swap takes 25%. Company has grown really well. I think it's on 17% per month the last 2.5 years, month on month. And now per month they are actually selling, I will come to that in the Q1 summary, where they are at right now. But the company has grown well, very well. Also attracted quite a bit of funding over the year, and 4 times revenue. Energize is a company that, I think when we talked about it last time, we were saying that they were starting to pick up pace after having gone through a bit of a struggling period. This company is now performing well. Over the year they actually did their first major China project. And they did it in one of the biggest, probably the biggest flat screen manufacturer in the world. So next time you buy a new flat screen, you will know that Energize might have saved 30% of the CO2 in making that flat screen. They have also gotten paid for the first time for one of these revenue sharing projects in China. This you see here in the background is a system, it's basically robotics, and they are run by a compressed air system. Compressed air systems are used in, I think, 90% of all manufacturing industry. Energize measures, monitors, and is able to optimize the use of compressed air so that you can save something like 30%. We also increased ownership here, so that we are now owning 43% actually of Energize. You may have heard that a lot of the energy gets used in buildings in the Nordics. Nuka addresses exactly that. It's an energy management system. that also measures air quality and sustainability data for big real estate owners. Company that has been a very early stage investment for us, but is now also really growing on a customer level. 13 times the number of contracted buildings, up to now to 531. Sold completely as a software service, so customers pay monthly. Well, we are spoiled here in the Nordics in a way that we have a lot of fresh water, but of course there's a water shortage in many places of the world. I think 1 billion people are experiencing water shortage, and even more have some sort of water stress. But this is not only due to water shortage, it also saves energy and resources actually to recirculate water. And that is what soft filtration does. They are able to clean very fine particles out of wastewater streams, big wastewater streams. This is difficult because typically filters tend to get clogged up. And then you need to stop the process, take them out and clean them, basically as you do with your coffee filter. Soft filtration is able to do this in a continuous process. So using ultrasound, you can actually clean the filter as the process is running. Company that has done now its first successful commercialization project and found, we would say, applications where they can scale up their solution. In the construction industry, this tunneling application, and then in the energy industry. And they actually managed to sell even one of these pilot units to the customer that tested it. Savo Solar, some of you might even be shareholders. This is actually a listed company on First North, Sweden and Finland, just like ourselves. Company that also performed very well on the market. Customers are happy and they even managed to double revenues, but they also had some challenges in deliveries that were prolonged, you could say, or delayed a little bit. So they had to do a share issue and cut the valuation quite a bit. So we went down a little bit, as you see, in ownership, or quite significantly in ownership, I should say, down to 7.3%. This share issue was oversubscribed and brought the company 4.2 million new euro. So they are now in a completely different position. I will tell a little bit more about them later. And we actually have 3 new companies. I'll tell you quickly about what they do. Next slide, please. So new in our portfolio, and you'll see it's actually small ownership in 2 of these. In what is just 1%. It's a typical peak hole investment, you could say, to actually get in, get on the board and see how the company performs from the inside. That company is actually performing very well. What it does, software algorithms that are able to detect which device uses the electricity in your home. So they're able to separate that just by looking at the sort of electricity footprint that device uses. So if it's a washing machine or if it's a tea kettle, it has a different electricity footprint. And then they're able to detect that and give suggestions for savings. That's what they do. Eagle Filters is a Finnish company, and they do exactly that. They do a high efficiency filter. It filters the intake air into gas turbines. Otherwise they typically run quite dirty over the year. You have to stop and clean them something like 3 or 4 times. With these filters you don't have to do that. And the turbines run cleaner, which means they produce more electricity. This saves literally millions of euros for their clients. Plug surfing, that is the interior of a Tesla. I want that on every slide, on every presentation. And this is a company based in Berlin. It is Europe's leading map to find charging stations for your electric vehicle. And it's also a very robust payment system. So once you reach that charging station, you can just use the little keychain to charge your car. Here in the Nordics, public charging tends to be free. But in many places in Europe, it actually costs. And otherwise, you have to be a customer with that electricity company that actually put the charging pole in place. So they have been able to consolidate this market. Revenues up a little bit, but from advisory services, we have not made any big exit, as you can see there this year. We didn't plan to either. Operational result, a little bit down. One-time cost, little bit more cost from actually being listed a full year, and some small additional consultancy services to help our companies. Result, because of the write-down in this Savo Solar ownership, is why the result after financial cost is low. And cash situation, of course, significantly improved now after the share issue in Sweden. You will notice that the balance sheet is actually up, and it's actually up more than the decrease in our financial result because of our ownership in swap that was valued up a little bit. We did an oversubscribed share issue to Stockholm. Actually 3.5 times it was subscribed, brought in 1,200 new shareholders, and also brought in 12 million Swedish. There is an opportunity to get 8.4 million extra out of this if these options kick in. They are valued at 8.4, oh no, sorry, they are valued at 13, so it's roughly 1.4 euro. The share price needs to be for these to basically have a value so that people will invest their options. Two of our companies completed successful funding rounds, Sophie Filtration and Aurelia, already in Q1. Nocart managed to get more orders already in Q1. This is actually triple the amount of revenue they had for the full last year already in Q1. Swap has continued strong growth, and they are now at $1 million in monthly sales. Swap.com. They crossed that for the first time during Q1. Energize got a new order. It's a car manufacturing plant. I think they produce some 70,000 cars per year, this car manufacturer in China. And it comes at a very good timing. The company is currently in contact with several big car manufacturers in China to install their system. I said I will say a little bit about how we view the future market, or the market ahead of us. It's really difficult, of course, to tell the futures. I'm not going to attempt to do it, but this decentralized renewable energy production is, of course, one of our legs to stand on. It's where a lot of our portfolio companies are and what they do. And this is an area that has already grown quite fast the last year. A lot has happened. I just stated some facts here, but I could have gone on for several slides to say what has happened during the year. I think it's also a sign. And this Norwegian oil fund that just excluded 52 companies too heavy on oil or in coal, I think is probably one of the best signs that coal power production is almost becoming quickly a liability to the firms that are invested in that. This maybe even tells it better. A picture is often better. This is the first time that new power production from renewables is more than 50% of the total new installed capacity over the year. This happened now. And I think this is the start of actually a decades-long transformation of the energy industry. And this graph, I think, will look completely different a few years from now. But this is the first time that it's happened. Costs for these renewable energy options, like solar and wind, will keep going down. I don't see any stop in that for quite some time. So, another important market for us, of course, is energy efficiency. A lot of firms are in that. And I think that will become a must-have. There is still a lot of savings to be done in the real estate and in industry in this area. Nuka is a good example. They actually saved somewhere along the lines of this in the shopping center here in Finland not too long ago when they installed their systems there. NSIS, of course, is able to achieve exactly the range of the savings that we're talking about here. And this is the reason why. This is a study that was done in the US just a few weeks ago, where they looked at, this is actually the different sources of energy, so energy production. And then they also took the typical energy efficiency project. They tried to map a lot of energy efficiency projects and see what their cost, levelized cost you could say, of decreasing watt hours over the project's time would be. And then you can compare them to the different sources, and that tells a clear picture that the megawatt is actually the cheapest electricity to produce. Resource efficiency is another important market for us, and of course it goes hand in hand with energy efficiency a bit, but swap.com is, of course, it's a good example of a resource efficiency. If you use items an extra time over the lifetime of it, instead of actually putting it in the landfill after the first time you've used it, it saves a lot of resources. And 30-40% of all the food produced is actually never eaten. And we think there's been a focus already on cleaner production to save resources in production processes. But when I say upstream, I mean companies like Swap that actually make sure that the waste, when everything is already produced, can be decreased on that level. And it saves all the way back in the value chain. And we see quite a lot of new innovations coming out in this field. Just to summarize, 2015, I think these three things says most of what has happened during the year. One step towards becoming the leading European clean tech accelerator is, of course, becoming a truly Nordic one. That's a step I think we have actually taken this year by listing in Sweden, getting more attention there, having more of the investors from that market also in our portfolio companies. I think we are communicating better. That matters for our portfolio companies as well. The more we reach out, the better and easier it is for us to get follow-on investors to our companies. And our companies actually perform very well. Final one, I thought I'd try to give you at least an idea of how we are focusing a little bit over the year to come. And this is how I worded it. It can matter a lot for a company to add a resource where they are lacking, in an area where they are lacking qualifications or expertise. This is an area where we can help out, and that is something we're already doing. We'll focus on that. Internationalization cannot be emphasized enough. All of our companies are aiming towards big international markets. So for us to help them, we need to also have good international networks. The new board candidates is actually a step in that direction. And we have more things planned to get even better international networks. Project financing. On many markets, customers are almost expecting project financing. So they're expecting the installation or investment cost to get, for example, a renewable energy project up. And then they can sign up for the electricity. So this is becoming, or it is a bottleneck to grow even faster, I would say, for some of our companies. And getting these projects bankable and helping our companies with that is also something to focus on the year to come. IPO and exit preparation, I think, speaks for itself. Next slide, I think that might have been the last one. Well, thank you very much.